Do you think it's time for the council to expel Vickie Paladino, or are you going to call on them to do that? And then I have a second question.
I'm heartened by the actions that the council has taken.
I was so shocked when I saw that press conference because he had just had another press event where he was talking about how he'll defend anyone's right to speak, and this was in relation to Mahmoud Khalid. It was in response to the protests that happened outside Gracie Mansion where bombs got thrown.
Free speech it doesn't exist in New York City. Now, we have our guests, but please, sir, be patient because I want to set this up for people who don't know. This is something that we are bringing to you exclusively. This hopefully will be a national story. Because every now and then I hear a story where I do my due diligence, and everyone here does, and I go, but that can't actually be true. It is. So the New York City Council is bringing Councilwoman Vickie Paladino up on ethics charges. Why? For Islamophobia. What kind of Islamophobia? She wrote things in tweets. Far less severe than I guarantee you watching, listening, have thought and written. And the council has the full moral support of the Islamic mayor Mamdani.
Do you think it's time for the council to expel Vickie Paladino, or are you going to call on them to do that? And then I have a second question.
I'm heartened by the actions that the council has taken. I will leave the council to answer further questions on the specificity. I know they're currently undertaking a process.
Oh, he's heartened. Maybe that's why Mamdani appointed former Al-Qaeda lawyer Ramzi Qasem as New York City's chief counsel.
That's pretty cool.
This person previously represented a terrorist named Ahmed al-Darbi. Now, for those of you who don't know, and we don't very often have local council people on the show, it's just that she's awesome, and Gerald met her in person. For those of you who don't remember New York City Councilwoman Vickie Paladino, she's the kind of representative that you want, representative of her constituents. And here's just a quick refresher as to how great she is.
What am I allowed to say and what aren't I allowed?
You can say anything you want, believe me.
Okay, good. Well, he sucks.
Okay.
And he really should. How's that? Good?
That's yeah. More.
Good.
Lay it on me.
Now, look, we were always loaded with liberals, but we didn't have the progressive left radical movement that we have today.
Yeah.
It's insanity. Insanity has taken over. And I think people are sick and tired, more than sick and tired, fed up and disgusted with the progressive left-wing radical movement. They've had enough.
I don't know how much experience you have with the brothers Cuomo at all. Obviously, one was governor and one was on CNN.
Chris is a schmuck.
Republican Councilwoman Vickie Paladino ripped Varma on her X account.
Your kids' educations were ruined because this man, this piece of human garbage, said it was dangerous. While this piece of human garbage was out hosting sex parties with the illegal drugs and everything else. Dr. J. Varma, you are a farce. You need to be prosecuted.
Yeah, I just will, this is my personal opinion, that's the kind of representative you want. And she did help us with the J. Varma story and really pushed. And she really is an active representative. Let me, just to give you full context before I guess read you the controversial tweets in question. Here's December 14th, 2025. This is why they're attempting to oust her. She quote tweeted Drew Pavlou after the Bondi Beach attack. Remember that in Australia? She wrote, "We're in the middle of a global jihad, the likes of which the world has never seen, and we cannot ignore it." Oh my God, the hate speech. "We need to take very seriously the need to begin the expulsion of Muslims from Western nations, or at the very least, the severe sanction of them within Western borders. The administration needs to begin developing a formal legal framework for the denaturalization process and get it over with before we end up with another 9/11 or worse. Enough is enough." She's actually proposing some kind of a formal legal framework to deal with the threat. These are the kinds of conversations that council people are supposed to have.
Yes.
February 17th, 2026, she reacted to Mamdani's pick for chief immigration officer, who, by the way, worked for CARE, just to be clear. To give you context, criticizing this person who worked for CARE. CARE is linked to the Muslim Brotherhood. Remember, Florida and Texas declared CARE a foreign terrorist organization.
Exactly.
I believe the UAE has as well. Fact check me if I'm not mistaken on that. It's either the UAE or Saudi Arabia. One of them declared CARE a terrorist organization. So she was criticizing this pick who represented a terrorist organization, worked with them directly. Here's what she wrote. New York is under foreign occupation. There's really no other way to put it. Does this administration have one single actual American in it? Affiliation with a terrorist group sure seems like a prerequisite for employment with Zoran's administration.
Fair point. UAE, you were correct.
Yeah. UAE says they're terrorists. This isn't a matter of just Paladino's opinion. They're trying to oust her, and our guest is facing a former Al-Qaeda lawyer for their troubles. February 22nd, reacted to images of New York City officials who were participating in the Islamic prayer. Many of you had reactions. Your council members should represent you. So then, with that context, you tell me if this is out of line. Zoran wants to make sure we know Muslims are apparently in charge of the snow removal and that we see them praying to whatever they pray to, I guess. This is part of Islamic conquest. Mass prayers in the streets, call to prayer blasting 5 times a day throughout the city, and the mayor conspicuously putting Islam first, both in his hires and his public media. The message is very clear. We are being replaced, and if a Christian mayor had been half as conspicuously religious, the left would be apoplectic. Despite this being a historically, functionally Christian nation, it's all about revolution and dismantling the country as it was founded.
That's all she said?
That's what she said. You've heard the left say this about the Trump administration, right? When they have people laying hands on Trump and praying. The radical Christian right, they have too much influence. People who worked with CARE, a terrorist organization? Former Al-Qaeda lawyers? If you can't call them terrorist sympathizers, then you can't call anyone terrorist sympathizers. So Vickie Paladino sued City Council in response to their complaint, right? The punishment, to be clear, is the process, right? She's going to have to fight this to simply be a representative for her people who feel the same way, who have said what you have said, and now they're going to be facing off in a legal battle against a former Al-Qaeda lawyer. This is New York City, and I have her representation on the show right now, attorney Jim Walden. And you can follow him at Jim4NYC on X. Mr. Walden, can you hear me, see me, sir?
I can see you. I'm not going to offer you any homemade wine, and you can call me Jim.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Let me ask you, did I summarize that correctly? Did I get anything wrong? And then I know that I don't want to, because I know legally as these are going on, I don't want to put anyone on the hot seat, so you can tell me what you can't discuss. I know that you probably have some suspicions as well. It seems like the mayor supports this. Does it seem like this is coming from the mayor, or there's some influence there?
I can't read into that, but I got to tell you, I was so shocked when I saw that press conference, because he had just had another press event where he was talking about how he'll defend anyone's right to speak, and this was in relation to Mahmoud Khalid. It was in response to the protests that happened outside Gracie Mansion where bombs got thrown. He's defending speech, but if it's a city council person and he doesn't like their speech, then he's heartened by the city council doing something that they've never done in their history. Not once, right? I can talk to you till I'm blue in the face about the number of tweets that went out on other council people's websites from the so-called Progressive Caucus, and how offensive they were to lots of people, including staffers within the city council. Not one punishment, but when Vickie speaks her truth, they don't like the speech, and that's what this is all about, right? The answer to speech that you don't like is more speech. It's not starting some bogus disciplinary process to expel her, censure her, whatever they have planned.
Well, that was going to be my next question, is there any precedent for that? Have you seen anything like this before?
Literally, I've done a very, very deep dive. The only time that they punished someone for something called speech was a guy that they brought up on corruption charges who also sexually harassed a staff member directly. And so that speech was part of the charges against him. It's a totally different thing.
Right.
I mean, understand these tweets did not go out over Councilmember Paladino's official account. This is her private account. This is This is her personal account, and she was advocating just the way other people advocate. People may agree with or disagree with her speech, but it should not be a basis for a governmental body trying to essentially bring someone up on bogus charges.
Right. And I would, if you do have some examples, I'll give you a little bit of time from other council members. They're inflammatory, sort of, I hate to use the word offensive, but comparable on the flip side, that would be helpful. I was going to ask you, though, because the left, obviously, let me ask you a couple series of questions. I'll do the lawyer for a second. The left says they're about democracy. Yes, they haven't had a primary since 2012, but all about democracy. Palladino. Now, was there an electoral process, to be clear? Like, did she have to get any support from people?
Yeah, that's generally part when you're elected 3 times. And by overwhelming numbers. Yep.
I just wanted to make sure I wasn't confused that it's an appointed position and keep it up, treat me like I'm 5. Did the people who elected her 3 times, are they the ones calling for her? They called for her to represent them. Are they the ones calling for her to no longer represent them?
No.
Oh.
And in fact, the people that were apparently offended within the council wouldn't even tell me who they were yet. So right now we have charges that she's facing with unnamed people who were apparently felt in their jobs, because what they're doing is they're saying she created a hostile work environment with her personal X account that offended and made people feel as though she was hostile to them. Mm-hmm. So it's just a black box. It's a star chamber like I've never seen.
What's this about? Because I talked about it, but I want you to say, because people won't believe me, because it's frankly hard to believe. So she was voted in to represent people. Seems that multiple times she was elected, so it seems like she's a good representative. Some would say that's kind of a track record, right, if it happens multiple times. People, through a non-democratic process, want to remove her without giving you clarity as far as who is upset by it. True. That doesn't seem very democratic. That almost seems like they want to usurp the democratic process. Now, what's this about the lawyer now you'll be facing? Former Al-Qaeda lawyer, representative of an Al-Qaeda member? Make sure that I'm not dreaming that.
No, well, I read the same reports that you did in terms of his track record. So I think that he did defend Al-Qaeda. It won't be him in court, I don't think. I'd love to spar with him in court if he chooses to do it himself, but he'll have one of his underlings do it.
Yeah, that's how does that happen? How does that person get? And this person's position is chief counsel to the mayor.
It's called the law department. We call it corporation counsel. So it is like the law department for the city. It's weird though, because corp counsel represents the city council and city council members, and it represents city hall. There's a real conflict there at times, but right now the law department, meaning corporation counsel, is representing the city council. Okay. I've made the argument that they should recuse themselves,
right?
Because they represent Vickie too,
right?
So it's a conflicted process in addition to everything else that's wrong with it.
Sure, yes, and it is a conflicted process, and I find that interesting also. But most interesting, the person at the head of said department, the sort of the head honcho, the big kahuna lawyer, former Al-Qaeda lawyer. I have that correct.
I've read the same reports you did. And
yes.
Yeah, that is my understanding.
Yes.
And that was part of, I think, what one of the things that Vickie tweeted about. So again, people can agree or disagree, but she's just exercising her First Amendment right. And now she's being selectively prosecuted. Both of those things are wrong.
Well, I don't think people can disagree if she says, well, this person represented people in Al-Qaeda if the lawyer did. That's,
you'd think.
That's kind of just, we have to agree, but I think it's wrong to help Al-Qaeda. And I know it'll be the whole ACLU thing. Well, everyone deserves protection. Did you take a walking tour on January 6th? Die in prison. So, there's a double standard there. Foundation Daily. All the daily vitamins and minerals you need, check. Clinical ingredients, check. At their clinically effective doses, check. And lab tested, so you know that what's on the label is exactly what you're getting. Foundation, fill in the gaps. Fill in the gaps that you might be missing. Go to foundationdaily.com today. Subscribe and save 40% for life. Help! Help! I do have a couple of examples of other posts. So, for example, of other city council members who have not been charged. This is Chiose referred to Paladino's son in a ex post as a slimy white supremacist. About an Italian-American city contractor with the name Dragonetti. His name alone should have been the first red flag. Responding to someone on X, bro, your girl smells like a halal cart. I don't even know what that means. It's been deleted. Tweeted, Santa Con is pride for straight white people from the tri-state area. Councilman Ruben Diaz Sr., a Democrat, publicly stated that the city council was, quote, controlled by the homosexual community. Are there any that I'm missing that seems quite a bit worse than like, hey, we need to create a legal framework to deal with active or potentially active threats?
Well, that's a good representation, but there are dozens and dozens more. I mean, Council Member Sandy Nurse said something along the lines of, you can always trust white ladies to do the white ladying thing, whatever that means. So there are two standards for free speech that are embraced by the City Council and the Mayor of the City of New York. One is speech that they like, and that hands off everyone. And then if there's speech that you don't like, that gets less protection. That's the message of this prosecution, which is why Vickie decided as a matter of conscience that she wasn't going to take it and told me, get me in court. And that's what we did.
Yeah, and the punishment, right, it is the process. The scariest part is the people determining the speech that they don't like have determined that speech from actual terrorists deserves representation.
Well, you're going to love this. We have a hearing coming up on April 7th. And just yesterday, this is like breaking news, we issued subpoenas for 4 of the worst offenders on the Democratic side, including Chiose.
Okay, good.
So you have to testify, and I'm going to get a chance to cross-examine them.
I just, and if you can stay with us, we're going to go to Rumble to Mug Club. Like, is there anything else that I'm missing that you think the public needs to know? Because this, to me, is, it's not just beyond the pale. If this is allowed to stand, it's one of many tipping points. Certainly it's a tipping point in New York where it's like, okay, your voice doesn't matter. It's going to be overridden by elite Islamists in power. That's how I see this.
I don't think you're missing anything. The point of this story is if you give this power over to the government to start prosecuting political enemies, then we're all done. There is no justice system that's hands off that. So hopefully, when I come back, we can talk a little bit more about any other questions you have.
Yes, absolutely. And before we go, because we're going to continue here to the member segment. By the way, guys, if you're watching, you can click that button and maybe you can send in your questions. Hey, would you mind taking a few questions from the audience?
No.
Okay.
Always.
It's Jim for NYC on X. But before we go there to the chat, can you tell people where they can go to support this cause, or is there anything that they can do to take an active role?
Write the city council. I mean, I don't care if you're in New York City or outside New York City. City council needs to know that we have one standard of justice, and that standard of justice is don't go after your political enemies because you don't like their speech. So for people that care about free speech, for people that care about not having selective prosecutions, City Council's website is there. You can submit comments, letters, all the email addresses are there. Write them and let them know how you feel.
Yes, and I'm sure the alleged terrorist sympathizers will get right on there. Attorney Jim Walden, stay with us. We're going to take some chats. If you guys are not a member, then there's no pleasing you. Go on to watch Haley for free, or you can stay with us. Let's go, Toolman. Attorney Jim Walden, thank you for staying with us. And I know that you have important things to do, so thank you for sitting through the silly horseshit that was on the show before. But we have to balance it, my friend. I will hit the stinger here, so I think that he will see it. We have people who want to ask you some questions. It's time for Thursday Chat. Midnight Hammer, hit the attorney with some questions.
All right, first chat from Prasul. Question for the guest. Do you think there is even a remote chance that she gets a fair trial in NYC?
She will not get a fair trial in the city council, that's for sure. I mean, it's not really much of a trial. They'll give her an opportunity to say so. If it goes this far, right? I'm trying to stop it from going this far. If it goes this far, they'll give her a chance to say something. They won't listen to her. They will have whipped votes in the Progressive Caucus. They have about 25 votes. They need 2/3 of 51. So they still have to pick up some votes, and they'll make political deals to make sure that whatever their sanction is, they'll impose it. They'll announce it and try to do maximum damage to her, which is all this is about.
Right.
That's why this is so anti-democratic, as you rightly pointed out.
Well, again, sometimes I try and distill it and ask these simple questions because people, I have to deal with lawyers a lot. And then I go, okay, I need to be able to explain this to people who aren't lawyers. And yeah, she's voted in. You said 3 times, voted in. Okay. No one then people on the council want to get her out. It seems as anti-democratic as I can think. And then you have to go, okay, well, is it in the best interest of the people? Well, those making the determination, actual terrorist sympathizers, according to their public posts and according to their track record of work. It's so concerning to me that we've gotten this far. It's almost like Josh, who's here, said, like 9/11 worked in a way. It worked in that it really created then afterwards the rebound effect, a culture of self-censorship where we've made a group beyond criticism or approach. Whether you agree with her criticisms or not, seems like her constituents do. And now it's almost codified that, yeah, but you can't do that. You can't say that. It's scary.
We live in tough times right now. I mean, it's tough to be here and see the number of people. And I'm speaking not as Vickie's lawyer, but just as Jim, the person who's politically astute. See the number of people, whether it's anti-Semitism, anti-Israel, whether it's actual terrorist sympathizing, it's happening everywhere by elected officials and prominent people in other places in our society. It's terrible, but it's speech. And people shouldn't go to jail for it, and people shouldn't get deported for it, and people shouldn't, get ethics charges lodged against them because they're exercising rights that are enshrined in our Constitution.
Right. Yeah. And she's a representative of people. She's speaking for the people. It's not like she's on some kind of a committee where you are assigned to that role to speak on a given subject. And then if in your official role you speak out of turn, like I get that, right? It's like, well, you were hired to be an ambassador for X, and instead you actually were counterproductive. This is someone whose job is to represent the people who elected her, period. I'm willing to bet they share the same opinions because I hear it across the board. Noodles, next chat.
All right, next chat from Okami. You're probably in the waiting game for the council decision. If they push for removal, will you be going to the Department of Justice?
Yeah, so you should assume that that's definitely a tool that I think is appropriate here. The Department of Justice, if we've been in contact with them, I couldn't really talk about that.
Right.
But this clearly is a civil rights violation, plain and simple. And so, Vickie, I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure that she's vindicated. But again, the point of this exercise in terms of going to court is stopping this dead in its tracks before they even have a chance to vote.
Yeah. I mean, God willing. And Gerald, you had a question.
I did. I wonder if you could speak to the process of actually being able to bring these kind of quote unquote charges. It appears that they had to jump through some pretty weird loops or kind of hoops to get to that.
So generally, the way that it works is there has to be a complaint. Someone has to have filed a complaint, or the city council speaker could have directed the ethics committee to review whatever the conduct is that the speaker is concerned about. It looks like the speaker here did that. I'm not sure if there's been any filed complaints. As I said earlier, they haven't told me anything. And then they go into what's called a closed door session, an executive session, this committee that deals with ethics issues. Whatever happens in that room, again, total star chamber, no transparency. They're then supposed to keep the vote private. They can announce what the result is. Here, they walked right out of the room. There were cameras waiting there. I assume that this was all set up for maximum exposure. They announced the charges, and then they put the vote on the council website for about 5 hours, just enough time for the media to see how lopsided the vote was, and then they took it down. I mean, sometimes when you see this stuff, it feels like we're living in a third world country.
Yeah.
To see this kind of bruising, awful behavior, but that's what we have here in the capital of capitalism.
And you know what else? I will say, this is not you, I will say, sometimes it feels like you're in a third world country when people are in the mayor's house eating on the floor with their hands instead of utensils. And it's okay for people to go, yeah, that feels off to me. This is where I live. I'm not a huge fan of it. People are free to say that. That's where we used to be. It's okay. Just like these other people can say the American troops are the real terrorists, as they have quite a few times. I was talking about this earlier, and I know you're politically astute. if none of this makes sense, I really hope that people start understanding. Like Greta, it's hilarious because she doesn't believe we should burn fossil fuels, but she's demanding that Donald Trump release fossil fuels to Cuba. If you go, how does that happen? It's Marxism. Above all else, their loyalty will be to the hierarchy of Marxism, communism, socialism. They'll cover it. They'll place a veneer over it. It'll be social. It'll be environmentalism. It'll be LGBTQ. It'll be feminism. But the truth is, they can't help themselves when it comes down to it. It's who is a useful ally for Marxism, a system of oppressor and oppressed, and that means correcting it. And that's the only consistent through line I see. Otherwise, there's no way to rationalize it.
Yeah. Listen, I know a fair amount about politics. I know a fair amount about history. And while I personally support the mayor's right to eat on the floor or do whatever he wants, publicize Islam, which I agree that if he does that, it may bring hate crimes against Muslim people down, which is a good thing. What I agree with you on wholeheartedly is the way in which the radical Islamist groups like the Muslim Brotherhood have partnered with communists and socialists. And it's not just happening here in the United States. That Red-Green Alliance has happened in many different places. It was what caused the Iranian Revolution in 1979. Mm-hmm. So people don't understand that this is a real thing. This is not imagined. The Muslim Brotherhood put this in a document in their original charter decades and decades ago. This was their plan, and the plan is working, and we're seeing it play out not just in American cities, but in cities all over the world. And we have to really find a way to deal with that because it is causing things like what happened outside Gracie Mansion, where people show up with homemade devices which could have killed dozens and dozens of people.
Yeah,
we've got under control in some way.
They were designed to, and people don't realize that unholy alliance of basically Marxists and the Islamic Republic. It's just sort of a reverse because, for the record, what did the Islamic regime do to the useful Marxists once they achieved power? I think a lot were killed. Do I have that right?
I think you're right about that.
Okay.
I mean, but they see the far left as useful idiots.
Right.
They don't care about anything other than their usefulness, and so they literally were trying, and they've succeeded to some degree to weaponize the left to help them achieve their goals. That's what worked in Iran in 1978, leading to 1979. That's what's happened in other places in the world, and now, welcome America. This is the new normal.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you know, but I've had run-ins with CARE for a while. This goes back to 2009, where they put me on their Islamophobe list. And I don't know if you're familiar. That's effectively a hit list. That's why they've been recognized as a terrorist organization officially by several states and the UAE. That list of Islamophobes is not a list of, hey, these people might offend you. And I've had to deal with authorities for over a decade because of that.
Listen, and honestly, it doesn't serve the Muslim community well. I mean, the overwhelming number of Muslims in Western countries are peace-loving, want freedom, want to work and achieve things for themselves and their families, and all it does is turn up the volume in terms of people that overgeneralize and blame them for the sins of the radical jihadists. So, anyway.
I disagree with you on there, but I also appreciate that we can do it. I was in Greenfield Park when 9/11 happened. A lot of Americans are shocked by this. Biggest minority group in my school was Muslim, much more so than blacks or Asians. I think it was mostly Pakistani. I remember where I was. First plane hit, and I didn't know. And I still felt guilt for a long time because when I first heard about it, someone told me like a plane flew into a tower. I said, "Whoa, man, how crappy of a pilot do you have to be? I bet you someone's getting fired." We had no idea it was a terrorist attack. And then we were sitting, hearing about it. It wasn't the quad. I don't know what you would call it. It's where the staircase was to separate the middle school and high school. And we watched the second tower be hit. And I watched a lot of people in my school cheer. So it's important for in Western Lubbock. That's why these are during my formative years. And I got in trouble for threatening to kick the ass of a kid in my school who wore a T-shirt not long after I plain New York instead of a heart. So I think it's more common. My opinion is it's more common than people know. But I think it's great that someone like you, even-handed, measured, can represent someone on the basis of freedom of speech because this is a railroading. It's wrong, and yeah, please keep us posted.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to say, I was there on 9/11, too. I was a prosecutor at the time. I saw the first plane. I saw the second plane. I ran to get my wife, who worked at right next to the Trade Center. And then I worked the pile for months and months afterwards, trying to help as much as I could. And I worked the pile with a number of people who were Muslim, and they were as offended as I was. So
I know.
In any event, I'm glad that we stand together for free speech, and I'm going to continue the fight.
I completely agree, and I really appreciate it. Keep us posted, and send Vickie our best, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Be well. Let's go. Oh, you're still here watching this on YouTube? There's no more. It's over. Just like YouTube. YouTube is over. It's not a thing anymore. How many Seth Meyers clips do you need? Head on over to Rumble. Follow me there. Live on weekdays at 11 a.m. Eastern, where we can actually speak freely and don't have to self-censor. YouTube it's really not a thing. Like, you ever seen one of those towns that maybe was like a mining town, or maybe they made some kind of alloy? You say, hey, I wonder what they did in this town. It takes a while to find a person who can tell you what they did in that town, and even then you don't fully understand it. That's YouTube. YouTube is that town. So go to Rumble.